This is the story about dangerous UFO cults and murder. This is the story of what happens when someone gets stuck or trapped too deep down the rabbit hole of UFOs and aliens on the internet. There is substantial and supportive evidence that can show that some people get caught or stuck too deep in that rabbit hole. To some, UFOs and aliens on the internet becomes an obsession. An obsession so deep that some are willing to do anything to keep climbing down that ladder. Some people believe that by climbing further and further down that rabbit hole ladder and getting closer to the gatekeepers, those who hold the secrets, that they will be given some secret knowledge that others just don't have. I've often wondered about some of the people I've seen or met on UFO Twitter. Many of those people spend 8, 12, or even more hours a day feeding their obsession. And their obsession only grows with each new promise of revelations soon to come. But all those revelations that these so-called messiahs of disclosure are out there promising everyone never seem to come. But they've sure got something new to sell you every so often, don't they? And isn't it funny how they never seem to deliver on the promise of that disclosure soon to come? And what about the people that are selling this delusional fantasy world to people with little or no evidence at times? Do they bear any responsibility for the negative impacts that the obsession with this delusional fantasy world can have on people's real lives? I have witnessed the damage that this unhealthy obsession can do to many people who get stuck too far down this rabbit hole. It can lead to lost jobs, lost marriages, people who have lost their children, people who have destroyed their lives, even killed themselves. And what about the people who stood there taking the money of these people, selling them this delusional fantasy world where disclosure is going to come any day now, where the government has alien bodies and flying saucers, and soon will reveal the truth about it? What responsibility do those people have? When people's lives are destroyed, when marriages are destroyed, when people take their own lives, or when people get so far down this rabbit hole that they lose all sense of reality, that they finally snap and murder those closest to them, and murder those closest to them, and murder those closest to them, and murder those closest to them.
These are the true stories of murder in UFO land. Sadly, it happens more often than most people would ever imagine. Even sadder, almost none of the people selling the UFO narrative to the public dare mention this or even acknowledge it.
The further and further we go
down this rabbit hole, the curiouser and curiouser it will get. This is Murder in UFO Land. Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Tonight we'll be continuing our ongoing series, which we've titled Murder in UFO Land. For several years now, I have studied and cautioned about the dangers of online cults and conspiracy theories. And through some of my research, have found some very dark rabbit holes to travel into and some very strange and dark stories. And tonight we'll be sharing with you one of those stories. Tonight is the story of a man named Stephen Mineo, who got caught up in an online alien cult. And I believe that this led directly to his death. Unfortunately, the online cult leader died and never faced any consequences, legal or otherwise. Perhaps reputationally, she did, because many people, including people in her one-time online cult, blamed her for what happened to Mr. Mineo. Before we begin to discuss what happened to Stephen Mineo and the murder that took place, we really need to recognize the causal factor. And I believe that causal factor was indeed Sherry Shriner and her online, what can only be described as her online alien apocalypse cult. Interestingly, despite an incredible amount of influence, and some reports indicate she made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars with her online activities, there exists only 2 pictures of Sherry Shriner on the entire internet. A picture of her in her younger days, and then a picture of her in her later days, more around the time of this murder. So we'll share that with you as we begin to discuss the rise of Sherry Shriner's conspiracy theory cult. Tonight we'll be deconstructing Sherry Shriner's, some of her conspiracy theories, which of course, like David Icke's conspiracy theories, had a focus on shape-shifting reptilians that were somehow in government and world power and control. Shriner's early life, not much is known about, but what is known is that for college, her education was at a Christian school where she dreamed of becoming a newscaster or show host on CNN or on television. And when those plans did not work out in her favor, she essentially started her so-called online ministry with her online platform. And these began on early audio podcast networks. And so having been rejected by the mainstream media for any type of job or position that she felt she deserved, she started her own online network on these early podcast networks. And within a very short time, a conspiracy star, for what that's worth, was born. Sherry Shriner is a polarizing figure in the realm of conspiracy theories, and she has garnered attention for many of her outlandish claims and fervent followership. Central to her narrative is the existence of shape-shifting reptilian beings that are, according to Ms. Shriner, covertly controlling governments and orchestrating global events. Tonight, we'll be critically analyzing some of Shriner's conspiracy theories and examining the psychological, sociological implications of her assertions and claims. I think that by focusing on the mythos that she promoted of these shape-shifting reptilians and government control, tonight we'll sort of reveal the mechanisms through which such narratives propagate, and of course the consequences they entail for rational discourse and societal cohesion. So we all know, if you're here, you know this already, but it deserves to be said, conspiracy theories have long captivated the human imagination. And I believe that's because they offer narratives that challenge conventional wisdom and purport to reveal hidden truths. Sherry Shriner, who was once a very prominent figure within the landscape of conspiracy theorists, once amassed a huge following by promoting a constellation of very fantastical beliefs. Important to note that she never really provided any evidence of her fantastical beliefs. And her beliefs were a mix of Christian beliefs and conspiracy theories, chief among them being the existence of shape-shifting reptilian aliens that were infiltrating positions of power and controlling humanity. But if we undertake a critical examination of her conspiracy theories, with a particular focus on the pervasive mythos of those shape-shifting reptilians exerting control over governments and global affairs, what we find out is that her claims were largely just that, claims. She offered little to no actual evidence, and like many conspiracy theories, just connected many disconnected stories into her chosen narrative. And Shriner's narrative of shape-shifting reptilians was at the heart of Shriner's conspiracy theories. And of course, within these theories lies the notion of those shape-shifting reptilian beings, which are purportedly somehow alien or extraterrestrial in origin, and at the same time ancient, who somehow clandestinely manipulate human societies for their own nefarious ends. According to Shriner, these reptilian entities somehow shapeshift and are able to assume human form. And by that method, they're able to infiltrate key institutions of power to further their agenda of enslaving humanity. Through her massive, some would say, online presence, including websites, social media platforms, Facebook, and podcast networks, Shriner disseminated anecdotes, purported evidence, which really didn't amount to real evidence, and esoteric interpretations of both the Bible and world events to substantiate her claims. And it's interesting that despite lacking any evidence, Shriner's narrative of these shape-shifting reptilians exerted a profound influence on her followers and on online conspiracies in general. And her followers ardently embraced her worldview, often to the exclusion of rational inquiry. And then, of course, there are some psychological dynamics when it comes to the belief in shape-shifting reptilian aliens. The allure of these conspiracy theories, including the mythos of shape-shifting aliens, can be attributed to a confluence of psychological and social factors. For individuals who are disillusioned with mainstream narratives and the boringness of reality, Sherry Shriner's conspiracy theories offered a sense of empowerment through the possession of exclusive knowledge and insights. Sherry Shriner placed herself at the top of this pyramid of secret knowledge. Moreover, belief in shape-shifting reptilians provides a convenient scapegoat for all of societal ills and personal misfortunes, absolving individuals of responsibility while attributing agency to an otherworldly enemy. Within the context of social identity theory, adherence to conspiracy narratives fosters a sense of belonging to a select group of enlightened individuals. And this, of course, reinforces group cohesion, group dynamics, and reinforces in-group, out-group dynamics. In other words, it's us versus them. And if you're not with me, you must be one of the enemy. You must be against me. This brought her followers and group closer together. It gave them a sense of belonging, like many cults do. The proliferation of conspiracy theories on the internet, particularly those espousing the existence of these shape-shifting reptilians and government control, poses significant challenges to rational thought and democratic governance. By promoting narratives devoid of any actual evidence and rational scrutiny, conspiracy theorists like Sherry Shriner undermine the foundations of evidence-based inquiry and critical thinking. The dissemination of these narratives contributes to the erosion of societal trust in government and other institutions, fostering a climate of suspicion and polarization. And in the absence of robust mechanisms for discerning fact from fiction, conspiracy theories risk subverting democratic institutions and sowing discord within communities. Some people are very drawn to these conspiracy theories, feeling themselves to be a misfit or an outsider. Online cults like Sherry Shriner's sort of play to those type of people who feel different or feel that something is just not right with the world. Sherry Shriner's narrative of shape-shifting reptilians and government control, promoted by conspiracy theorists like Sherry Shriner and also David Icke and others, exemplifies the influence of unfounded beliefs on public discourse and societal cohesion. As society grapples with the proliferation of misinformation and conspiracy theories online, it's important to interrogate the underlying psychological dynamics driving belief in these narratives and to cultivate resilience against their allure. I believe that by fostering critical thinking, something we feel very strongly about here, and media literacy, we can inoculate ourselves against the seductive appeal of conspiracy theories and uphold the integrity of rational thought in an increasingly strange and complex online world. So one of the other things that's very important to keep in mind about Sherry Shriner is her promotion of orgone. Sherry Shriner made, by some reports, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars selling orgone devices that she claimed could both heal you of anything that ailed you, sound familiar, quite like the medbed scams of late, and also protect you against those reptilian alien shapeshifters. It's almost as if Miss Sherry Shriner created a problem and promoted that problem as a huge problem in the world, and then for a price offered a convenient solution. But the problem is that the myth of orgone has been debunked time and time again. It's a pseudoscience. It's a modern day snake oil. Orgone is a term coined by William Reich in the mid-20th century, and it's persisted as a supposed energy force capable of healing, cleansing, and even enhancing your life. And one moment here, I have some examples which you might be familiar with, examples of so-called orgone energy devices. Let me share my screen once again. And we've all seen these. If you're into UFOs or aliens or conspiracies, you've all seen these websites that basically promise that these devices can do all kinds of things. And isn't it interesting? Nobody ever offers any evidence that these things actually do anything other than fill their sellers with large sums of cash, fill the seller's pockets and claimants' pockets with large sums of cash, but they never actually prove that these things do anything. And despite the lack of evidence supporting the existence or efficacy of orgone, a huge market for orgone devices has flourished and is still flourishing right now. You can just search for orgone pyramids anywhere, including Amazon, I believe, with proponents selling these objects as miracle cures or spiritual tools. But orgone is a pseudoscience, and the tactics employed by those who capitalize on the mythos around orgone are simply exploiting vulnerable individuals who are looking for solutions to real-world problems that they have. In the world of alternative medicine and spiritual healing, orgone has been touted as a universal life force generator, capable of curing ailments, improving your mental health, and even protecting against negative energy or electromagnetic radiation. Orgone originates from the failed and false theories of William Reich, a psychoanalyst whose ideas were increasingly rejected by the scientific community. Still, orgone became a fixture in the landscape of pseudoscience, and despite its dubious origins and lack of scientific validation, the belief in orgone doing many things still somehow persists. And this belief is driven by those, I believe people are scumbags who sell these things. Not in all cases. Listen, if you want to buy one just because it looks cool and put it on a table in your home, that's fine. But the people who market these things, making all kinds of wild claims about what these things can do, in my opinion, those people are scumbags. And the belief in orgone still persists, which is perplexing to me, but that belief is driven by those who market and sell these orgone-related products as miracle solutions to anything that ails you. Whether your problems are psychological in nature, medical, I've seen people sell these things claiming that they can help cure cancer to cancer patients. This, of course, has its own ethical problems. But back to Sherry Shriner, it's important to note that Sherry Shriner exploited belief in orgone, and she exploited fear. Sherry Shriner, who, of course, was a self-proclaimed prophet and spiritual warrior and conspiracy theorist, she gained notoriety for promoting orgone, even calling her followers orgone warriors, as a powerful tool for protection against evil extraterrestrial forces. And despite the complete lack of scientific evidence supporting her claims, Shriner was very successful, especially financially. By some reports, she made hundreds of thousands of dollars every year selling these devices to her followers. Shriner successfully sold orgone devices to many of her followers, profiting from their fears and vulnerabilities. In the vast and often murky world of conspiracy theories, Sherry Shriner stands out for her bold assertions about these orgone devices, about the alien beings and their supposed influence on humanity. And central to her belief system that she promoted was the belief that orgone, which again is a pseudoscientific concept originally introduced by William Reich, a discredited psychoanalyst. Shriner claimed that these devices could be used as a miracle defense mechanism against these alien forces. Shriner marketed and sold orgone devices, claiming they offer protection from everything from alien abduction to government mind control. However, a closer examination of her claims and the reality of actual science reveals that that her claims about these devices are not only unsubstantiated, but they are also extremely unethical and exploitative. So we've gone over the origins of these devices, but Shriner took Reich's discredited concept and adapted it to fit her own conspiracy-laden worldview. She claimed that orgone energy could repel and neutralize the threats posed by extraterrestrial beings, whom she described as evil, malevolent, demonic, shape-shifting entities that were controlling all the world's governments and infiltrating human society. According to Shriner, her specially crafted orgone devices, often referred to as orgonite, could be used to protect individuals from these evil alien forces, as well as from various forms of spiritual and psychic attack, including evil spirits and even demons. Shriner's claims are characterized by a complete lack of scientific backing. There is no credible evidence to suggest that orgone or orgonite energy even exists, let alone that it can influence extraterrestrial beings or provide any form of protection. Her assertions rely on anecdotal testimonies, vague references to ancient knowledge, and a heavy dose of fear-mongering, all designed to convince her followers that they need her products to safeguard their spiritual and even physical well-being. And let's talk for a moment about Sherry Schreiner's exploitation of fear and vulnerability. One of the most troubling aspects of Sherry Schreiner's promotion of orgone or orgonite is her exploitation of fear. By convincing many of her followers that they are under constant threat from invisible, demonic, alien, and malevolent forces, she created a sense of urgency and dependency. Her followers needed her to survive. This fear-driven narrative is a classic tactic used by purveyors of pseudoscience to manipulate vulnerable individuals into purchasing ineffective or worthless products. And we see this across the board. Right now, we've got David Wilcock claiming that there's a mass ascension event coming and you need to be prepared for it. He does the same thing, manipulating vulnerable individuals into purchasing ineffective or worthless products. Schreiner's followers, many of whom are already inclined to distrust mainstream science and governmental authority, or even religious authority, were particularly susceptible to her claims. Many of her followers, as I said earlier, often felt like misfits, or they felt alienated from conventional society. They were searching for alternative explanations and solutions to their problems, and Schreiner offered a solution to all of their problems in the form of these orgone or orgonite devices. Schreiner capitalized on their vulnerability, on their alienation, offering her orgone devices as a solution to all their fears at a price. And by many reports, Sherry Schreiner got rich selling these devices. But the idea that these orgone devices or orgone energy can protect against aliens or other supernatural forces is quite simply a complete and total fantasy. The materials used in orgonite, resin, metal shavings, crystals, and rocks, have no scientifically recognized properties that would enable them to interact with any kind of energy field. And in fact, I was once at a sort of let's just call it a New Age conference, and listening to somebody give a sales pitch of these, claiming that they produced scalar energy and they halted EMF and all of these other things. These claims are all completely and totally false. So there is no scientific data or measuring device that can show that these produce any kind of energy field, let alone repel extraterrestrial beings. The notion that these objects could have such powers is rooted in pseudoscience and is a belief system that lacks evidentiary support and thrives on anecdote, stories, and speculation. Throughout the years, there have been numerous investigations into many people making many claims about orgone, and most of those investigations have consistently found no evidence to support the people making the claims. Orgone or orgonite devices, including those sold and popularized by Sherry Schreiner, are inert objects. They're basically trash: resin, bits of copper wire, rocks, crystal, salt crystals, and these things, even together, have no special properties. They don't generate any energy. They don't influence the environment. They don't affect health in any measurable or real way. So the continued promotion of orgone as protective or a healing tool is therefore not just misguided, but fundamentally deceptive. Sherry Schreiner's promotion of these orgone devices as a defense against aliens raises serious ethical concerns. By selling products based on fear and falsehoods, she exploits her followers' trust and vulnerabilities. The financial and emotional costs to those who buy into her claims can be significant, as they may forego legitimate medical solutions or treatment in favor of ineffective pseudoscience remedies. Schreiner's activities contributed to the broader problem of pseudoscience, undermining public understanding of science, medical science, and rational thought. The proliferation of her baseless claims, like those surrounding orgone, can erode trust in legitimate medicine and medical institutions, making it harder for individuals to discern truth from fiction. So Schreiner's sale of these orgone devices really made her rich, and her sale of these orgone devices as a means of protection against extraterrestrial threats is a clear example of pseudoscience at its most exploitative. Her claims were unsupported by evidence, and her products offer no real benefits to those who purchase them. Instead, they prey on the fears and vulnerabilities of her followers, profiting from their anxiety, medical problems, mental problems, and distrust. It's crucial that we approach claims like this with skepticism and demand evidence before accepting or promoting them. So, important to note that Miss Schreiner literally got rich selling these pseudoscience devices that are, and by the way, I have seen some artists that make these that, hey, they're pretty. Right? If you want to put it in your house as just a pyramid or an art piece, I'm fine with that. But the problem that I have is when people are using fake pseudoscience and promising people miracle cures and more. Now on to the murder. So it's important to note that the two people involved in the murder, both the victim and the murderer, were very, very deep into the Sherry Schreiner online cult and Facebook group and more. And in fact, we've obtained the interrogation videos, the original police interrogation videos, where the murderer mentions Sherry Schreiner many times and the Facebook group as well. I believe that Sherry Schreiner had a direct causal effect on these two individuals. And really, you're not supposed to speak ill of the dead, but I have to call a spade a spade. I believe that Sherry Schreiner is largely responsible for this murder and what indeed happened on that night. So we'll take a moment to welcome in the live chat. I want to also just mention we're a viewer-supported show. We read every single super chat, but tonight I will be reading them at the end of our presentation. I have a great deal of information to share with you, including some of the original interrogation videos. So back to the actual murder. The two individuals involved were the victim, Stephen Mineo, who again was deeply involved and some would say a high-ranking member at one time of Sherry Schreiner's online alien cult, and also Barbara Rogers, who was also deeply involved in Sherry Schreiner's online alien cult. In fact, they met through the cult. But tragically, on July 15th, 2017, Stephen Mineo was shot and killed by his girlfriend, Barbara Rogers, in their home in Coolbaugh Township, Pennsylvania, which coincidentally is only about 10 miles from my cabin. It's in the Pocono area of Pennsylvania, the Pocono Mountains. Rogers claimed initially that Mineo had put a gun to his head and asked her to shoot him, saying that he could no longer take the pressure from Sherry Schreiner and her group. The couple had both been avid followers of Sherry Schreiner, but in the weeks leading up to the murder, they had become the targets of Sherry Schreiner's wrath. In 1 second here, I have some other images to share. It's really a tragic story of two young people's lives being destroyed by an online alien cult. And here we see Stephen Mineo and his one-time girlfriend, Barbara Rogers. So essentially, there was a falling out between Sherry Schreiner and Stephen Mineo. And that falling out began the instant that Stephen Mineo hooked up with his girlfriend, Barbara. It appears that Sherry Shriner did not like Stephen Mineo having another woman in his life that had power or influence over him. So Shriner accused Rogers of being a vampire witch reptilian super soldier, asserting that she had infiltrated Mineo's life to lead him astray. Essentially, that she had infiltrated Stephen Mineo's life to lead him away from Sherry Shriner. This accusation, combined with Shriner's repeated denunciations and the pressure to conform to her group's beliefs, her cult's beliefs, put a very significant strain on Mineo and Rogers' relationship. Essentially, Sherry Shriner put herself between these two, who were in the midst of a romantic relationship, having moved in together, and was telling Mineo what an evil, alien, reptilian, vampire witch his girlfriend was. According to court testimonies, Mineo had become increasingly paranoid and fearful of Shriner's prophecies, leading to a state of emotional and psychological distress. On the night of the murder, Rogers, in a state of panic and confusion, claimed that Mineo had handed her a gun, put it to his head, grabbed her hand, and begged her to shoot him, a request she eventually admitted to complying with. However, the circumstances surrounding this shooting and the influence of Shriner's rhetoric make it clear that the situation was far more complex than a simple murder-suicide scenario. The toxic environment created by Shriner's influence, including many of her followers attacking both of these individuals, both separately and together in many online arenas, played a significant, some would say pivotal role in driving the couple to this tragic outcome. Sherry Shriner's role in the events leading up to Stephen Mineo's murder cannot be understated. Her control over her followers was absolute. She claimed that she was God's prophet, essentially sometimes claiming that she was like the female version of Jesus, the daughter of God. And her control over her followers was 100% and absolute. She demanded total obedience from her online cult followers. Her control over her followers, which was absolute, combined with her paranoid and apocalyptic teachings, created a highly volatile environment for many involved. Shriner's accusations against Barbara Rogers in particular contributed to a psychological breakdown in both Barbara Rogers and Stephen Mineo, the victim, which led to this fatal confrontation. And I have a few other images here to share. That one's not it. Here's an image of Barbara after the arrest. She's tragically, I believe it's not just one person's life that was ruined by Sherry Shriner and her online alien cult. Throughout researching this request, I've reached out to Barbara Rogers for an on-the-record interview, and as of the time of this broadcast, she has not yet agreed to do that. But I still have sympathy for what happened to her. And perhaps after viewing just a little bit of the 8 or 10 hour initial police interrogation, you would too. She seemed in the interrogation videos to be very confused, distraught, emotionally distraught. She's talking to herself. She's begging God to change the outcome of that tragic night. It's a very tragic story. So Shriner's influence on this couple operated on several levels, as I have observed it. First, her ability to instill fear and paranoia into her followers created a mindset where they felt constantly under threat from these invisible, alien, demonic, or malevolent forces that Schreiner claimed were controlling the whole world, including local governments, local sheriffs, local police. This heightened sense of danger was compounded by her specific accusations against Rogers, which she made cult-wide. In other words, Sherry Schreiner was making public proclamations that Barbara Rogers was an evil, shape-shifting reptilian alien that was negatively influencing Stephen Mineo and wanted his downfall, essentially. And this, of course, isolated the couple from the rest of the group and pushed them into a corner. Next, Schreiner's teachings encouraged a binary worldview in which anyone who questioned her or deviated from her teachings was seen as an enemy and was ostracized from the group, or some people in some religions call that shunning. So Barbara Rogers and Stephen Mineo were shunned from the group, but not just that, Sherry Schreiner continued to make very harsh claims against Barbara Rogers, which caused many of the online cult members to attack them in various ways. And of course, this is a perfect case of you cannot question the leader of a cult. Their truth is absolute, and anyone who questions the cult leader is shunned or ostracized from the group. And that's a severe form of punishment if you have structured your entire life around this group. So Sherry Schreiner's absolutist mentality left no room for any doubt or dissent within the group, which further complicated the couple's isolation and desperation. The murder of Stephen Mineo is a stark reminder of the real-world dangers posed by conspiracy theories and the individuals who propagate and promote them. While conspiracy theories to some might seem harmless or even entertaining diversions, they can have severe consequences when taken to their logical extremes. Schreiner's ability to manipulate and control her followers demonstrates just how easily conspiracy theories can turn dangerous. These online conspiracy theories can be especially dangerous, especially when they involve elements of fear, paranoia, and cult-like behavior. In the case of Sherry Schreiner, her online presence provided her with a platform to disseminate her beliefs to a worldwide audience. But it also allowed her to create a closed, insular community, which we've discussed here many times. Many of these online conspiracy theorists, and online cult leaders create echo chambers, an insular community where dissent is just not tolerated. And the members of the group are continually subjected to their influence. The psychological impact of such an environment can lead to extreme actions, as evidenced by the tragic murder in Stephen Mineo's case. The murder of Stephen Mineo by Barbara Rogers highlights the lethal potential of conspiracy theories and the influence of online cult leaders like Sherry Schreiner. Schreiner's manipulation of her followers, coupled with her apocalyptic and paranoid rhetoric, created a situation where real-world violence became almost inevitable. This case serves as a powerful warning about the dangers of allowing conspiracy theories to go unchecked and the importance of addressing the underlying psychological and social factors that contribute to their spread. Pardon me. As the digital landscape on the internet continues to evolve, it's crucial that we remain vigilant against the proliferation of harmful cult leaders and conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists, and the individuals who use them to exploit and control vulnerable people. The tragic death of Stephen Mineo is a reminder that these ideas are not just harmless fantasies or mindless entertainment. They can have very deadly consequences. So we'll get to a more media-rich portion of our presentation tonight. This story got a significant amount of local television coverage. So we'll put our fair use banner up. This is a transformative work. We are educating the public and critiquing the videos that we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and is certainly allowable by law. I have found some of the local coverage about the actual murder. There was, after all, significant media interest in this story, largely, I think, due to the alien aspect and the online cult aspect of it. It made it a more salacious, more sensational story. And certainly, you know that any salacious or sensational story gets clicks and views. So there was a lot of media produced. I have tried to distill things down to the most important parts of that media, or interesting parts of that media coverage. And I also wanted to share with you some of the original interrogation footage, which I think is extremely important in the story. When the interrogation first started, seems like Miss Rogers was basically saying, well, what a tragic accident. And she appears truly distraught, upset, and sort of mentally compromised. And I certainly feel for her and have sympathy for her. Barbara Rogers was convicted of the crime of murder. And this is just a tragic story all around. These people were way too young to destroy their lives over what is essentially the ridiculous, nonsensical ramblings of Sherry Shriner. And it's interesting, in preparing for this broadcast, I listened to perhaps, I don't know, 20 or 30 hours of Sherry Shriner's broadcasts, which, by the way, are still on YouTube, which I think is very dangerous to leave them up. I don't believe in censorship, but in this case, her conspiracy theories and, you know, wackadoo teachings led directly to this murder, in my view, and therefore is dangerous enough that I wouldn't leave them up if it was solely my decision to make. But somehow they're still available on YouTube. I believe they're on other platforms as well. But let's get to some of the media coverage, which I think was very, very interesting about this case.
A Monroe County woman claims her involvement in an online alien cult led to the death of her boyfriend. Barbara Rogers is charged with shooting Stephen Mineo at a home near Tobyhanna in July 2017. Rogers claims she and Mineo were part of an online cult that centered on aliens and the end of the world. In opening statements, Rogers says that the cult turned against her and Mineo, and she told the jury Mineo put the gun to his own head and told her to pull the trigger. She claims she didn't know the gun was loaded and calls the shooting an accident. Vilma Avalos for CBS Philly.
Yes, so as we'll see in some of the original police interrogation videos, she first claims that this was an accident. But as the interrogation goes further and further, her story keeps changing and changing and changing again. The police caught her in several other inconsistent statements, which means that the murder case and her defense of it being accidental did not go well. Let's check out some of the other media coverage.
And tonight, with a jury right now in Monroe County deciding the fate of a woman who shot and killed her boyfriend in a cult-connected murder, according to prosecutors. Eyewitness News reporter Brianna Strunk has followed this case from the beginning. She joins us live outside Monroe County Court with more. Brianna.
Well, Mark, the jury started deliberating around 12:45 this afternoon. They then came back into the courtroom around 3:15 to ask the judge to clarify the difference between first and third degree murder. Now at this hour, they continue deliberating. Let's take a look at some video now. In July 2017, Barbara Rogers called 911 to report she killed her boyfriend, 32-year-old Stephen Mineo. When investigators arrived to the couple's Coolbaugh Township home, they determined Mineo was shot in the forehead at close range. Rogers blamed his death on an online alien cult, which she and Mineo belonged to. Rogers says the cult turned on her, calling her a witch, and because of that, Mineo asked her to kill him. Back in 2017, Eyewitness News spoke with the cult leader, Sherry Schreiner. She said Mineo angrily left the ministry once members outed Rogers. Schreiner claims she tried to warn the victim that Rogers was dangerous. Now, before trial started, prosecutors did offer Barbara Rogers a plea deal. They offered her to plead guilty to third-degree murder, which carries a 10 to 15-year prison sentence, but she declined. Now, once a verdict is reached, of course, we will bring you that latest information. Live in Stroudsburg, Brianna Strunk, Eyewitness News.
Thanks for our update, Brianna, and we will continue monitoring this story as we wait for that verdict tonight in Monroe County.
Yes, so interestingly, she was offered a plea deal, and if she had taken that plea deal, she might be out of prison already, but she refused to take the plea deal. And there's more media coverage. Let's check that out.
A woman who killed her boyfriend while part of an alien-themed religious cult in Monroe County will remain jailed. The state Supreme Court made that ruling today. The Pennsylvania High Court upholding the 15 to 40-year sentence of Barbara Rogers. She was found guilty of third-degree murder after she killed Stephen Mineo in their Coolbaugh Township apartment. The investigation into Rogers started in 2017 after she shot Mineo in the head. Rogers called police and said that she and Mineo were both members of a fringe religious group. However, court papers say that Mineo and Rogers had gotten upset with the leader of the cult, who believed that Rogers was a reptile.
Who believed that Rogers was a shape-shifting alien, yes. And so there was a bit of media fascination with this story, leading to a lot of different coverage. Most of it, some of it sort of tongue-in-cheek, like, oh, online conspiracies, see, you should stay away from them or you could end up murdered. And I'm not sure that that's always the case, but certainly in some extreme cases, this can lead to a great deal of tragedy. And we have seen it here with this series. Remember, this is the third in our Murder in UFOLAND series. And if you're enjoying this story and this content, please do check out parts 1 and 2. At the conclusion of tonight's broadcast, I'll be adding a playlist for this Murder in UFOLAND series. Let's check out, I have just one more clip of the media coverage surrounding this event.
Guys, a bizarre story involving a North Jersey native, a murder, and an end times cult is sweeping headlines across the country. Stephen Mineo was 32 years old when he was shot and killed on July 15th in Coolbaugh, Pennsylvania, which is about 100 miles north of Philadelphia. He's a North Arlington, New Jersey native who had fallen in with a so-called reptilian cult involving doomsday prophecies and beliefs that people, including those in high office, are alien reptiles in disguise. Police have arrested Barbara Rogers, his girlfriend, and charged her with murder. That's when the story gets a little bit unusual. Rogers allegedly confessed to police that she killed Mineo, but he wanted her to do it. He wanted to escape this cult and told her to shoot him in the forehead, which she obliged, and he was killed. Now, the group's leader, Sherry Schreiner, has denied that this belief system is a cult and has taken to a radio show to say that she warned Mineo about being involved with Rogers.
You know, Steve wasn't involved in a cult. And I'm not a cult, and I'm not a cult leader. And so I want to set that straight because Barbara's trying to settle up her defense because everything she said was a lie. And so, you know, she's trying to get out of it. She hunted Steve down, picked his head up from the floor and put a bullet in his head, and so...
These people believe that they are prepping for the end of the world. It's a very bizarre story and a really sad one for Mineo's family. Jim McQueenie, host of NJ Now, you got a lot of experience in news and media. What do you think?
As long as you weren't going to say experiencing cults, I was with you on this one.
Well, you did work in politics.
Right, and there's two big cults, Republicans and Democrats, right? You know, you look at this cult phenomena and have to say, who's crazy is this to be doing this? I mean, and everybody looks at this, right?
You know, you struck up on something with politics. This is not equating this at all, but we do have a president right now who sits down with Alex Jones, who talks about how Hillary Clinton emits a sulfuric odor because she's like satanic.
Look, Everyone has the right to believe what they want to believe and be friends with whoever they want to be friends with. If you want to be part of a cult, that's fine, but don't say the devil whispered in your ear, that's why you murdered someone. My answer to that is get the hell out of here.
Sabeel, there's a great saying about lunacy versus something else, right? If you're having a monologue with God, that's called prayer. If you're having a dialogue with God, that's called crazy.
It's scary that someone felt that they needed to escape, run away, and maybe that they didn't feel like they had an avenue to do so. You know, maybe you're impressionable at the time, maybe you're vulnerable, maybe you go to the group because it's giving you something else in your life that you're not getting elsewhere. But if you decide one day you want to leave, can you leave?
I have some level of understanding of people getting swept up in certain cults, but when I start talking about lizard people walking around, like, come on.
Look,
how do you get caught up in that? How does that
As they said in The Lion in Winter, Brian, in a world where carpenters rise from the dead, anything is possible.
Yeah. So next I have, we've obtained the original police interrogation video, which I think is the most revealing part of the story. As I said, when the interrogation starts, Miss Rogers appears convinced that this was just a tragic accident. The gun went off somehow. But as the interrogation progresses, we see there's much, much more to the story. And I don't recommend, in the future, I'm going to do my very best to not watch an entire police interrogation to do a story, because I found myself coming back to this interrogation in my mind over and over again. And certainly having a great deal of sympathy and empathy for the victim, but even this Barbara Rogers. And just to be clear, Barbara Rogers is still, I believe, trying to appeal the case and get her conviction overturned. She was convicted of third-degree murder and is still right now in prison. I have reached out to her for an on-the-record interview. I can go there in person and conduct the interview, I'm told, by prison officials. I'll give you an update when we know more about that situation. But I think this police interrogation really does tragically tell the story better than I could. So I wanted to include some bits from that. Let's begin, friends, shall we?
Can you tell me exactly what happened tonight?
Tonight? Yes. Okay, it all started. I know that we were on Facebook, and I think this might have been what triggered it. He saw a bunch of bad comments from somebody named Marion, putting that, you know, that I'm a witch and a reptile. And I think when he saw it, he got really angry. He commented like a whole bunch of comments. And I could tell him, look, just forget the whole thing. Don't worry about it. And afterwards, you know, I don't know. After that, I think that might have been what triggered him to be this way. But then he's like, come on, let's go to the bar and, you know, have a little bit of fun. And he seemed normal. You know, we had like 1 or 2 drinks and everything was well. Okay, and then when we came home, he goes, you know, I need to practice shooting my gun. Come walk with me into the woods. So he took his gun, he grabbed it, he loaded it, he walked into the woods, he fired a few rounds. He goes, do you want to fire one? And I'm like, no, that's okay. You know, so then, you know, we walked back into the house. All of a sudden, he took the gun and started putting it into my hand. He goes, here, take it, point it at me. Point it. He just starts grabbing it, saying, you know, he put it in my hand and he goes, point it at me and shoot it right now. That's when it went off, right there. And the thing is, ever since he, there's a woman named Sherry Schreiner, and okay, he used to be close friends with her, and he used to follow her. He was really good friends with her. She runs a religious cult, some type of weird religious cult. And she's on Facebook, and she talks about like aliens and stuff.
Are either one of you two in a cult?
Not anymore. See, we were both friends with her, but then one day out of the blue, she just turned on us. You know, when me and him got together, she started turning on both of us.
What cult was it? Is there a name for that cult?
No, they call themselves Oregon Warriors.
Oregon?
Oregon Warriors, yes.
Like the state Oregon? Or
Not
just...
Oregon, Orgone.
As the interrogation would continue, Miss Rogers would be confronted with contradictory evidence that would dispel many aspects of her story. And she appeared to be crumbling under the psychological pressure of the police finding that many of her statements were not correct as to what happened that night. And the interrogation continued, and Miss Rogers began making admissions that the original story that she gave wasn't entirely correct. She began remembering that maybe she did pull the trigger, and maybe the gun didn't just go off, and maybe the position that they were both in that she originally told the police was not entirely accurate. It's hauntingly tragic to watch this interrogation continue and to see her story keep changing as the police confront her with more and more evidence that she did indeed pull the trigger, and she was not in the original position that she claimed, and that the event could not have taken place the way that she originally claimed that it did. Let's examine the rest of the interrogation bits that I have put together here.
He just starts putting it in my hand and he's pointing it at his direction. You know, he just goes, he placed it in there and he pointed at himself and goes, here, shoot it right now. And it just went off.
So where was he when he was saying that?
In our house, right?
Oh, where in the house? On the bed?
We were beside the bed. We were standing there.
Standing up?
Yeah, we were standing up.
Standing by the bed. Did it go off by accident or?
It went off on accident. I was actually trying to let go. You know, he was telling me, you know, I want you to point this, you know.
How far would you say the gun was from him when it went off?
Maybe this far?
Was it? Okay. So the gun from his forehead was about that far?
Yeah.
She was alive. Let's see. It's already. I don't know what happened, but I didn't know she what? She was here with me. I miss you.
I like I said before, I think you're a good person, but there's more to this that you're still not telling me. It's not matching with what's over there, not matching with what's at the scene. Okay, so part of what we found over the scene is that he wasn't standing when you pulled the trigger. He was sitting on the floor next to the bed.
Sitting on the floor.
It looks like he was sitting on the floor with his back against the bed.
No, he wasn't. I'm confused. He was not on the bed. He was clearly standing.
Okay. It looks to me like you did this on purpose.
No, I promise.
And on purpose doesn't mean that like you thought about this in the morning and you thought this is going to happen, but it was just a spur of the moment thing. You were mad, you did this, and now you're sorry about it. Is that possible?
I don't know. I remember him standing up. He placed the gun in my hand.
That doesn't match. He's sitting on the ground, you put it right against his head, you pull the trigger. That's what matches.
Sitting on the ground?
Yes. And I understand why you're trying, your mind is trying to change it, but in reality, you know what happened. And now, like, if you want me to believe you're sorry about this, you have to tell the exact facts. Right? You did this on purpose.
I would never shoot him on purpose, but now I think it's possible he could have been sitting on the ground. You know, everything just happened so fast.
But see how many times you've changed the story already with me now. Like, it's easier to tell it right the first time than to change it a couple times. So he's sitting on the ground, right? Now you remember that?
I think it's possible, but I don't know. I remembered him standing, but it's possible that he could have been sitting on the ground.
And you put it against his head and you pulled the trigger. It wasn't an accident. I'm not saying you wanted to do it, But it wasn't an accident. You did it on purpose, right?
Well, I didn't mean to do it on purpose.
I'm not saying you meant to. I'm not saying what you meant to do. I'm just saying what actually happened. And that is you put it in his head and you pulled the trigger on purpose. Right?
Don't know. It could have been this far.
The gun was probably touching his head.
I would imagine the gun was almost touching his forehead if it was not pressed against his forehead.
I think it was pressed against his forehead. I think you pulled it on purpose. In fact, I know that you pulled it on purpose. I don't think that you were planning this, but I think that's exactly what happened, correct?
It might, yes, that could be right.
Can you clear that up for me, just so I understand? At first, you said he wanted you to shoot him.
Yeah, I did say that. I think he did say something like that. He said, "Here, I want you to." He just put it in my hand. He put it there and he said, "Here, I want you to shoot this gun." I think from there it did accidentally go off when he put it in my hand. I didn't think it was going to hit him.
Could you stand up and show me what you mean? Because it'll help me. So if, we'll say this wall is the edge of the bed, where is he and where are you?
I guess he would have been here, and then I would have been here. You know, he handed me the gun. He said, "Point it," and I think the second I did that, yeah, I shot it and went off.
Okay. So you're holding it down here. That means he was sitting. You remember now that he was sitting on the ground?
Yes.
Okay. And you remember if he was sitting against that wall, like that wall was the bed, how close would you have been to him?
I think I was a little bit closer to him. I could have been like maybe right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so show me with your hands how you would have been holding the gun.
He put it in my hand and then I went like that.
So where would his head have been at this point? About here or right next to it? Because I want you to remember. It seems like you're remembering now what happened.
Yeah.
So you show me.
I would think it was right here.
So right next to his head, like if your finger, make your finger the barrel of the gun.
Yeah.
Show me with where his head would be.
His head would be like around here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right here.
Okay. So you put the gun right up to his head.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then pulled the trigger, right? Yeah. A lot of what you're telling me is a lie, and I know that. So kind of this is your last chance to tell me.
I don't know. What should I say?
The truth.
So, my friends, the tragic story of Stephen Mineo, Barbara Rogers, and Sherry Schreiner really informed me about the dangers of online cults and conspiracy theories and how extremism translates into real-world harm. In the vast, unregulated expanse of the internet, ideas can sometimes spread like wildfire. And in this digital age, with its promise of unprecedented access to information, it also brings a dangerous, darker side, one where misinformation, conspiracy theories, and online cults can flourish. And while these communities often seem fringe or harmless at first glance, they definitely have the potential to lead to significant real-world harm when taken to extremes, like in this case. Understanding the dangers they pose is critical to recognizing, countering, and preventing their spread. Conspiracy theories have been around for centuries, but the internet has amplified their reach and their influence. Platforms like YouTube, Reddit, and various social media sites provide fertile ground for these ideas to grow. Algorithms designed to maximize engagement often push users towards more and more extreme content, creating echo chambers where conspiracy theories are reinforced and even validated. Online cults, similar to traditional cults, are groups of individuals bound by a shared belief system, often centered around a charismatic leader or a particular ideology. These groups use the internet to recruit, indoctrinate, and even control their members. The anonymity and vast reach of the internet make it easier for these groups to operate and expand without the constraints of physical location. And then, of course, we have to recognize the psychological vulnerability and recruitment tactics they use. Individuals who feel like misfits, who are isolated, disillusioned, or seeking a sense of belonging are particularly vulnerable to these online cults and conspiracy theories. The internet provides these individuals with a sense of community that shares their doubts, fears, and belief systems. Through a combination of persuasive rhetoric, fear-mongering, and the promise of hidden truths, these groups prey on the vulnerable, drawing them deeper into their ideology. Recruitment often begins subtly, through seemingly harmless content that piques people's curiosity. But as individuals begin to engage more and more with this content, they are gradually exposed to more and more extreme ideas. The sense of community, belonging, and purpose offered by these groups can be intoxicating, leading individuals to adopt increasingly radical views. So what I've learned throughout this series is that online cults and conspiracy theories may seem like harmless internet subcultures, but when left unchecked, they can lead to significant real-world harm, such as in this case. The ease with which these ideas spread online, combined with their ability to radicalize individuals and even whole groups, makes them a pressing threat. By understanding the dangers they pose and by taking proactive steps to counter their influence, we can protect those vulnerable individuals and society at large from the destructive consequences of their online extremism. So, my friends, I think this will conclude our presentation. We're going to take a very short break just to remind you that we are a viewer-supported show. And when we return, I'll be taking comments and questions from the live chat. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. Just so that everybody is aware, we read every single super chat. We thank all of our supporters. I've got some people who have bought us a coffee that I will be thanking when we return. And I've got some more time to share with you. So please get your comments and questions ready for me. Please put them in all capital letters so that I can easily identify that's a comment you want me to share and respond to. We want to take a moment to thank you Patreon supporters. By the way, you Patreon supporters and channel members as well got a preview of tonight's broadcast. Some of these things take me a tremendous amount of time to put together. So if you're a Patreon supporter or a channel member, you get some of the portions of tonight's broadcast you got early, sort of a backstage view. And we thank each and every one of you for your support. I'll be back in just a few moments here to answer your comments and questions. We'll be right back, friends.
Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Cambion. Please rate, like, and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support.
Okay, friends, welcome back. And I forgot to have a banner saying the show is not over. Sometimes we play those support bumpers and people just bounce out. And I guess I don't blame you. I don't like commercials myself, but these things are necessary. I saw Patty Wilhelm with a very kind comment. Patty says, the Murder and UFO series has been very interesting. If you haven't seen the previous installments, go back and watch. Yes, and I will be putting a playlist at the conclusion of tonight's broadcast, which will make it easier for people to find those. We have the Christopher Gray story as Murder in UFO Land Part 1, and we also have a Part 2 as well. These are very tragic stories. And I thought that I was concluding this series with this Part 3. However, I keep finding more, and we may dig into those. Rodrigo Vieira is here, longtime show supporter. Haven't seen in some time. Always happy to see you, Rodrigo. Says, off-topic interview suggestion, the hidden risks of meditation. Dr. Willoughby Britton, neuroscientist, Trouble in Paradise. Rodrigo, I don't know. I would certainly be willing to interview anybody about meditation, but most of me thinks that meditation is very beneficial. Maybe I've been doing the right kind and not doing the more dangerous variety, which I have heard that there are some hidden dangers to meditation. I'm doing, some Buddhist meditation as regularly as I can. And specifically, I do the impermanence meditation, which kind of reminds me that this too shall pass, and all things are transient, and to not get so attached to things, because everything in this world, including us, are temporary. But thank you for the suggestion. Questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. Arlene Atkins says, I will stay for the commercial's voice. Yes, that is the voice of Mr. Ian. And Operation Shutdown says, very good presentation this evening. Thank you. So questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. AZ says, the way the voice says cash on the third line cracks me up. Well, he's great at voiceovers. As soon as I heard his voice originally I heard Mr. Ian's voice for the first time on a panel show. I said, you should be doing voiceovers. And he said, yeah, I would do that. So we got him to do that for us here. And there should be more coming. We haven't had time to coordinate things. And Talmud says, I'm a member. I like the extra content. I saw the body cam footage early that way of Wilcock getting nawatted or not swatted. Yes. Yes. And Aliens Are Sus says, Wilcock's done his dog and smoke alarms dirty. Hope his banana sandwiches won't digest.
Yes, and Talmud says it's nice to change things up once in a while. Well, this one was one of those that I just couldn't finish, and I don't know why. And this one's a little more scripted than some of the other episodes you may notice. And that's probably because I couldn't figure out really the best way to present it, but I think we did a good job. And like I said, we will probably have at least a few more of this Murder in UFO Land series. Incidentally, or you could help if you hear about a story of a murder that involves aliens or UFOs, or maybe even online cults. Please do send those to me. It's truthseekershow@gmail.com. JC is here and is also a member. Thank you for that. Says part of the danger is that one becomes more sensitive in some ways and less attached in some ways, especially with the serious group stuff. Long-time meditator here. Regular folks, no issues. Yeah, AZ says we are both temporary and eternal. Well, I certainly would like to believe that we are all in possession of an immortal soul. But sometimes I worry that may just be my 12 years of Catholic school that informs that belief system of mine. But I truly believe that we do have an immortal soul, and I would like to believe that our consciousness extends beyond death, because certainly what a tragic end to this wonderful thing we're all gifted with called life if at the end you just blank out and your consciousness is no more. That's some morose thoughts. And we want to thank our kind and generous benefactors. ML with kind and generous $10. Says, great show. Always love hearing about cults and a good interrogation to analyze. Good job. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. It is much, much appreciated. And if you are one of those people who would like to help our show continue, remember, we're a viewer-supported show. We're here because of you. Please do hit that money button. We read every single super chat. You can help us praise the cash, which helps us continue our journey here. Thank you, ML. Very kind of you.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right. And I also have a big shout out and thank you for the MVP of buying me a coffee, which is Mike Larry. For those unaware, Mike Larry, longtime show supporter, he was used to gift all the memberships. And so I guess he figured out, because of YouTube, they take 30%, that it would be better to just buy me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com/or/Truth Seekers Show. In the description of this video or podcast is how you can buy me a coffee or a beer or a tea. I'm going to change it to tea. But we want to thank Mike Larry, who bought 32 beers and at $5 a piece. That is very, very generous of Mike Larry. He is making it rain up in here. We want to take a moment to thank him for his kindness, generosity, and support as well. Thank you, Mike Larry, the MVP of buying me a coffee on Buy Me a Coffee.
You're watching Truth Seekers. Praise the cash, praise the cash.
Thank you, Mike Larry. We appreciate you. Thanks for appreciating us. We'll check in as well with our PayPal. You can also send a PayPal pledge. And listen, especially if you're going to send like $150 like Mike Larry just did, or you're going to send a large amount, we appreciate the super chats, but it would be better if you send it through PayPal or through PayPal or through Buy Me a Coffee, because we keep much, much more of that than anything else. Wow. And we want to thank initials RB. Rebecca, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. A $12 PayPal. And the message is simply best show on YouTube. Well, we certainly appreciate your kindness, generosity, and support. Thank you very much for your kindness and helping us to praise the cash. Longtime show supporter, Rebecca.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
And also, we have one more kind and generous PayPal pledger, and that is initials MB.
in the United Kingdom with a kind and generous $2.50 PayPal. Very kind and generous of you. Thank you for helping us to praise the cash. MB, thank you very much. All right, so I've got a little more time to share with you. Comments or questions for me? Yes, thank you, Mike Larry, for making it rain up in here. He is making it rain all the time. Mike Larry is the MVP of show support here. We thank Mike Larry for helping us to make it rain. Very kind and generous. We appreciate all of you supporters. Patty Wilhelm says Mike Larry is very kind. El Garay says Mike Larry is a legend. And Archaic Revival says Mike Larry Sanders show. Oh, yes. Just an update on my eye. And by the way, there's some rude, nasty person saying that I have to show medical documentation about my eye. No, I don't have to do any of that. So I've been treating, for those unaware, I have third nerve palsy, which resulted from a life-threatening brain aneurysm. And I walked away from that still breathing, so I really can't complain, but I got a paralyzed eye out of it. And consequently, that paralyzed eye is very susceptible to strange things. And one of those strange things is styes. I had last week had a terrible stye. I had a big pus ball in the corner of my eye. It starts at what appears to be a pimple, but then it gets infected. I'm happy to report that I'm doing much, much better. I don't believe that I'm going to require any kind of surgery or medical intervention beyond a prescription, which I got. I've got eye drops and eye ointment. I've been doing the hot compresses and also a saline solution at night sometimes with a patch on the eye, doing much, much better. Yeah, tea bags, I'm told, are help too. Yeah. Well, I tried everything. I tried that. Sandra McDonald says, back to carnivore, Stephen. I've been on carnivore, but I cheat occasionally. And this is where it gets difficult because, like, I don't want to complain to my wife, but my wife will make a delicious Sunday dinner, and that's going to be my cheat day. Right, Sandra? I go, well, there's this just delicious, like, garlic and sour cream mashed potatoes and rolls. And so I will have mostly meat, but I'll have a little bit of that. But then, since my wife cooks a gang of food on Sunday, then it becomes Monday. And it's like, I'm supposed to have one cheat meal a week, not two. So I got to do something about that. This week I had 2 cheat meals, and it was pot roast and mashed potatoes, which is really difficult for me to say no to. To imagine just sitting there and eating pot roast when there's all the other things around the pot roast. So I never thought that I'd be cheating on my diet by eating carrots and mashed potatoes, but here we are. I'm trying to do small portions though, but mostly at least 5 or I'm trying to go for 6 days a week, nothing but carnivore diet. And by the way, I'm not offering any medical or dietary advice. Consult your medical professional before making any decisions like that. Certainly don't get your medical or diet or nutrition advice from me. I'm just recounting my experience and the audience is sharing with me. Eucalyptus oil in the compress, just a little, has to be therapeutic grade. Now, I've never heard of that, but I'm willing to try anything. Horror thought. Wilcox swimsuit calendar. Egads. There is voices in my head on Twitter is making all those images of David Wilcock that are funny, right? They're like David Wilcock in a bikini. And he's made so many of them that we really could make a calendar, I think, right? I really think that we could. Trying to see if I could find one of them. And I want to give a thank you and a shout out to Stephen Greenstreet of the New York Post, who says, just when I think I'm at the bottom of the rabbit hole and have things figured out, Cambion does a multi-episode investigation into the reptilian apocalypse cult. Well, no, this is one episode of the series. The other two episodes of Murder in UFO Land, Mr. Greenstreet, are about other online alien and UFO cults. This one was specifically about Sherry Shriner, but thank you for the kind words coming from him. That's high praise. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I could find one of those images of David Wilcock in a bikini, because that's always funny, right? And I'm happy to also report that oh yeah, here we go. This is just, I got to share this. This is calendar worthy, I think. I think this is calendar worthy. What do you guys think? Should we make a calendar for this, right? Maybe we should make a calendar. And everybody can buy it. We're going to have to, we can't call it a David Wilcock calendar, though. We're going to call it a David No-Cock calendar. How about that? Yeah, Algaray says, high praise indeed. Yeah, I think he's the best mainstream journalist that's actually covering aliens and UFOs right. Everybody else is doing the copy and paste things. Looks like my high school art teacher. Looks like the thing of nightmares to me. I don't know why anybody would want a calendar of that, but if there's demand, we'll do it. I'll do it. Oh, it gets even worse. It gets even worse, friends. It just gets worse. And by the way, this is a comedic parody. I'm not trying to intentionally cause anybody psychological harm or damage. It's just funny things on Twitter that we find, and I'm allowed to share it. I still have my constitutional rights to free speech. Last I checked, yeah, it gets worse from there, ML. It really does get worse. And I'm happy to report that I found my Don't Sue Me Bro shirt. For those unaware, we have Don't Sue Me Bro shirts with my face on them in our merchandise store. In the description of this video or podcast, you can find a link to our Amazon store. Yeah, Arlene Atkins says that's messed up. Yes. AZ says Bible Rising. Yeah, this is a good calendar photo for March. Yes, extra small leopard print Speedos. Well, we'll see. AZ says, I will pay you to not make calendars, right? Oh, wow. Archaic Revival says, true, they say a tea bag can reduce swelling in eyes, like green tea would be a good choice. Yeah, but really, consult. We want to be very careful when delving out medical. I'm not giving any medical advice. Neither is anybody in the live chat. They're just repeating things that they've heard. If you have a medical problem, really do consult your medical professional, whoever that be. Don't take medical advice from me or anybody else for that matter. Go to your doctor. But some of those things work, talk to your doctor about them. Yes, hide grandma and the kids. Yes, if you're watching at home, don't get your kids out of the room for that, right? So, yeah, just make one calendar and send it to David Wilcock. Well, I could print one up. I think that's a good idea. Maybe we'll do that. ML, me neither. You could be allergic to any essential oils, so be careful. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of essential oils, but I do like, I'll tell you what, I happen to have at the cabin once, we had a power failure and all I had was scented candles. And I can't remember, but I think it was like, vanilla raspberry scented candles or something. And boy, did that cabin smell beautiful. I think the wood soaks up that, whatever the oil is in the candles that makes them scented like that. Smelled delicious in the cabin for a while. Tim Curley is here and says someone should AI grown-up DW in his pajamas from when he was 8 years old. Wilcock sees the calendar and gets a stiffy. Yeah, he's his own greatest fan. So absolutely. Yeah. UFO Grifter Swimsuit Magazine with Wilcock as the centerfold. Oh, that's the stuff of nightmares if you ask me. Yeah, so listen, friends, I think we've done our due diligence. We'll call this a quick one. For us, it's a quick one. Sometimes it takes 3 hours to get through some of these. But I'm happy to get this off of. This one has been on my to-do list. You guys know I've mentioned it many, many times. I just, it's kind of hard being a one-man army here to get this all done, get it all together, get the media support. some images, write the script, but it's all very challenging. And I got to tell you, I like being challenged. Sometimes I feel too challenged, but this one was very challenging, but that's what keeps me interested. If it was easy to just knock these episodes out, I don't think I'd have as much interest. It's the challenge of doing it that inspires me sometimes. And the feeling of knowing that I did a good job telling this really tragic story. And also want to take a moment of silence for the victim, in this case, Stephen Mineo. So if you're a praying person, we'll just observe a moment of silence for the victim here, and you know, observe the tragedy that was his death. Okay, wherever he is, I hope he's in a better place, and I hope you are too. Thank you. Arlene Atkins says, great presentation tonight. And Above the Clouds is telling everybody good night. Patty Wilhelm, Arlene Atkins and Patty Wilhelm are my two biggest cheerleaders, always telling me that I'm doing a good job. I like the positive feedback. Thank you very much. Also, I don't mind criticism, but it's interesting that we have an old troll back in the comments, and I know exactly who it is because only this person would complain about the things they're in the comments complaining about. And but isn't it interesting? Because I haven't thought about that person in months and months and months, and then it made me check in on their shit show that is doing like no views now. So it's natural that they're jealous and going to take some shots at me. And I say, shoot your shot. You cannot affect me. You know, we're on a positive, slow growth here, regardless of how slow the show is growing. It's a fact to say that our show is still growing, and some people's shows are shrinking and dying on the vine. Thankful for our continued growth. By the way, I should remind everybody, since I'm, you know, supposed to be a good YouTuber here, and remind you, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. It really does help. Hey, maybe you know somebody that's into true crime and not so much into aliens. Tonight's episode would be an excellent episode. Just copy the link and send it to them in DM or PM or email and say, hey, you like true crime, you should check out this. This is a good story. I really would appreciate it. Liking and sharing these videos also does help. Leave some comments for the algorithm, AI algorithm gods, so that they will find favor in me. Yes, Sunlover 5000 is here and says, quality content is not intoxicating like Fantasyland. That's why there's less people here. Yeah, and also, I mean, if people know that I'm going to go hard on somebody, twice as many people show up. But you know, I don't know if there's some signs from the universe that I got to try to be kinder and gentler. I can't just be hammering people 5 days a week here, 3 days a week or whatever. You know, there's other stories to be told, and it's not always look at what a scam artist this person is, look at what a grifter this person is, look at what a liar this guy is. But people love what I've figured out is, and I'm like this too, I love those gotcha moments, right? And I get it. Sometimes people come here and they see that we have researched somebody's claims and found out that they're completely, totally full of shit, right? And we can prove it. People love those gotcha moments, so it draws a bigger crowd. Unfortunately, those gotcha moments take time to research and get together and things like that. So I can't always be hammering people. A lot of people, I get messages all the time like, this was a great show. Just do every show like this, just yelling and screaming. And well, it's been a while actually since I've been yelling and screaming. I've been really trying my best to control my emotions better, which I highly, you know, I highly suggest, especially if you have children, because that anger spills over into other areas, and that lack of patience sometimes that I've had, it spills over, you know, like I snapped at my youngest son a few times when I really shouldn't have, but he's cool. Like I apologize to him and try to explain to him that, you know, why, and, you know, but still, I want to try to be a kinder, gentler me, especially in the coming new year. Yes. ML says, but you're funny as hell when you get going on a good rant. I get it. I used to love content like that as well. So I don't blame people for liking that better. But, we need to have some kind of balance here between that and more professional content, I guess, or more, professionally produced content that's a little more scripted and fact-based, and not so much just me calling people cocksuckers, or scumbags. As much as I know people like that, I'd like to have some more balance and provide some more professional journalistic stories like tonight. Tonight was a great example of that. So like I said, please do. You could do me a huge favor if you know anybody into true crime, and a lot of people love true crime, copy the link to the show and send it to them. It would really help, especially because sometimes I put so much work into these and then I go, wow, I could have did anything and gotten more views than that, which is a little discouraging, but I understand why it happens. But we've done our due diligence for tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. And I want to thank some of the sources, including the police local to my cabin, that helped me, get the story right. I appreciate all of you kind and generous benefactors, you Twitch subscribers, you PayPal pledgers, you people buying me a coffee, you YouTube channel members and Patreon supporters, super chatters, and hey, you super thanks people. Even if you're watching a replay, you can hit the thanks button and throw a couple dollars in our hat to keep us doing this work and staying honest and keeping our lights on. We appreciate all of you. Thanks for appreciating us. So that's all I got for you, friends. I'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you'll be here with me. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you, especially Mr. Stephen Mineo. Good night, and God bless all of you.